My name is Alexander Richter. I'm a technical director for visual effects, animation, and games, and I worked at companies like WeatherFX and Framestore on Avatar: The Way of Water and Monsters at Work. And today I wanted to introduce you to our monthly event, the TD Meetup, where we meet each month to talk about all the current topics in visual effects, animation, and games. And it's perfect for people who are interested in the technical field and who want or are currently technical director. It's an environment where we meet, where you can ask questions, where you get introduced into new topics, we have discussions, everything that allows us to thrive in our careers and understand the environment of visual effects, animation, and games better. Welcome to the TD Meetup. Hello, my name is Alexander Richter, and we are first time live on YouTube doing TD Meetup. Last week we did the Python for Blender part 1. We will do part 2 next Thursday. But yeah, so this is the first time we're doing TD Meetup live, purely, without any edits. So we have to make sure that works. You're welcome to chat with us. We also have chat. So feel free to write your comments during the meetup, and if you have questions, you like to comment on things that I'm saying, I will jump back and forth between the presentation of a technical director. This is what we will talk about today, and the things that you want to talk about. And the idea is that also in the future, we will be planning to do more of these streams. We already had plans for a few this year, but next year will be even more. Okay. So let me know if there's any issues during the stream, something with the audio, something with the video, so we know that everything is working out well. Thank you everyone for joining. So, and what we want to talk today is the role of a technical director in visual effects, animation, and games. And this should have been the first episode of the TD Meetup, as it is in the title, the Technical Directing Meetup. The idea of the TD Meetup, as I did in the introduction, is to talk about technical things, to talk about a lot of the elements that are important for visual effects, animation, and games, for technical director, technical artist, and technical enthusiast. So we're not only talking about technical things, because even being a technical artist, technical director, you need to find a job, you need to apply, interview, negotiation, all these parts. You need to communicate with people, teamwork. So there are a lot of layers to that, but we also cover a lot of things that I believe are important to cover when you are interested in certain roles like that one. So this time we actually dive into the role and see how this will be going. So before becoming a TD, I never thought I'd be throwing cats, put markers on a buzzard, drop M&Ms to test GoPros, use an Alexa, which is a 100,000 euro camera, as a witness camera, work in different countries, talk with most people in the team, with especially leads, make important product decisions, work on Avatar: The Way of Water, and many more. And kind of it happened, and you're probably wondering how we got here. And that is also something that I want to explain to you, of like, what is this role? How can you end up doing, throwing cats surrounded by GoPros while there's a green screen, while there's actually a person here, holding a stick for the cat. So the craziest thing can happen if you do certain roles and, especially dive in certain things like technical directing, for example. Okay, so I believe technical directors are the future. And if you know a little bit about me, you know that for me it's important that role, technical artist as well, in visual effects, animation, and games. And the idea comes from this structure. So to become the artist of the 21st century, I believe you need to have 4 elements. And 3 are the one that you are probably already aware of, but the 4th is the one that I believe makes an importance in the future. And so the first one is obviously, in every artist, every skill, every job, you need to have the skill of the job. You need to know how to do the job. You need to be able to model light, effects, and so on. The second part is branding. You need to be able to get out there. People need to, see you as a modeler that they can hire, be on LinkedIn, have a show reel, things like that. So you need to be hireable. Then obviously teamwork is very important. Most visual effects, animation, and games projects are in a team. So the better you are able to integrate yourself in the team, to integrate your work in a team, make it blend in, the better it is. And the fourth one, and I think that is the key to the future, including AI, including complexity of projects, including also simplification of project, is scripting. Because scripting is the way to automate our work, to make it easier, to make it faster, and so on. So I believe that the artist of the 21st century has all the four skills. And so that is also the pivot point where I believe technical artists, technical director just become more stronger and more important in the future. So what is a technical director exactly? A technical director is a bridge between the artist and the developer. So they combine that. They combine the understanding of the artistic and the technical side, especially merging them together, making things simpler and possible. And there are actually a lot of technical directors out there in different departments. So if we divide a production between assets and shot, we have the assets TDs, scan TDs, modeling TDs, surfacing TDs, rigging TDs, grooming TDs, pipeline TDs, and even more. And then on the shot side, we have the motion capture TDs, layout TDs, animation TDs, lighting TDs, rendering TDs, compositing TDs, pipeline TDs, and even more. Every department can potentially have one to multiple TDs supporting them in their approach and combining what the artists want to envision. So the artist's job is to create the art, and the TD's job is to help the artist to, pave the way, to remove any problems that they have, especially on a technical side, to make things faster, easier, and approachable. And sometimes also TD's job is to help with the art as well. So if you're wondering, okay, that sounds interesting, how do I become a technical director? So the typical requirements of a technical director is first and foremost, as it is in the title of the role, is technical understanding and solutions. It's important then, if we are looking at the role of a technical director, that we always are the one who help problem solving. That is the key of what we do. So while the artist always solves artistic problems, we as a technical artist and technical director, we focus more on technical problems. So if Maya crashes, if the workflow is too slow, rendering is too slow, the scene takes forever to open, there is certain things that are just unfeasible in a production. We need to find ways to make it easy possible. If there is an idea the director has, we help to find the plugins, the workflows, and so on and so forth. So we are always on the front of helping to find a way and removing any technical obstacles. So it's very important to be a technical person in a way that understanding and solutions. A lot of times you are either a department TD or a pipeline TD, so you have to understand your department. If you're a lighting TD, you need to understand the basics of lighting. If you're a modeling TD, you need the basics of modeling. And so because to help someone in a specific role, it's very, very important that you understand the role, the environment, to help them and to break it down into easier steps. Since creating solutions is a key element here, one of the best elements that will help, or best tools that will help you to create solutions, are scripting. In our case, specifically Python, as Python is one of the strongest. We'll talk about that later as well. And so one of the key requirements is actually to be able to know, to have the skill of Python. And then obviously, if you work in visual effects, animation, and games, you have to know certain software. Depending on which department you are, you maybe have to know Maya, Nuke, Houdini, maybe Blender, as we did Python for Blender just recently, Katana, Unreal Engine. So it really depends. Basically, you need to know the software that is used in your department, in your environment, and so on. Basics of Linux and Shell and Git is important, and then oftentimes we have some kind of databases from Autodesk, ShotGrid, Flow, F-Track, and so on and so forth. And then last but not least, you need to be able to document well, because you need to explain things to other people, workflows, strategies, and so on. And you have to have extremely good communication skills. As we said before, you are the bridge. And if you want to be the bridge, you need to convert what the technical side wants with the artistic side. So you have to, build the bridge, so people have to understand you very, very clearly. So technical and communication are probably the two main skills of that, which combines everything else as well. So what are the ups and downs of the role of a technical director? One of the greatest upsides is the responsibility and the impact on the group. As a technical director, you have a lot of abilities, you have a lot of opportunities. You will help guide the ship to some degree. You will maybe decide, hey, should we use Maya or Houdini for this project? Should we use this plugin or that plugin? Should we use that render or that render? That could be, depending on the roles, could be a part of the supervisor. You could be part of your decision. You could be advising on that decision. So there's a lot of help and support and decision making involved. So a lot of responsibility, but also impact. You stay generally more up to date. If you are an artist, sometimes you can be stuck with your workflow and so on. As a technical director, usually you have to look into new technologies to see, is this something that will help the production? We just recently had a VR experience with Dan. And so it's like, oh yeah, this is interesting. Can this help in a pre-production if we use VR for that? So that is something really cool, actually. Oftentimes TDs have more time and work flexibility, as your work is not, deadline, shot tomorrow or something. There are sometimes deadlines, the shot has to be tomorrow, so we need to help with that. But oftentimes it's more flexible. We are looking into certain problems, and if it takes a moment, it takes a moment. That there's no other way. There's a lot more freedom. Oftentimes our work is also more layered, and it can be, one day a little bit more artistic. Maybe we're actually lighting or shading. The other day, maybe we're just more coding. The other day, we're maybe just looking into why Maya crashes every time. So it can be a lot of things, and that creates a lot of freedom. And kind of best of both worlds, as we talk to everyone, we work easily with other people, we jump layout today, maybe tomorrow we help a little bit animation, depending on the size of the studio, depending on your own roles, but that can easily happen, that we, have a little bit of the variety and jumping between artistic and technical roles. And generally speaking, all technical roles are usually well paid and have better job securities. That's one of the many arguments that I always give. Besides that, I believe it's, to some degree, it's the future, having more technical people and understanding. I think it's also a more stable environment. There are, of course, a few downsides, very important to mention. As responsibility is an upside, it can also be a downside, meaning, if things go wrong, it is a little bit on our shoulder to fix them. And, if the production is standing because some problems, then it's a little bit on ours to kind of fix that. Obviously, stay up to date also means to kind of, be current, look what's going on, and not just like, I have my workflow and that's it. So it can also be that you have less to no final influence on the project. So it can happen that at the end of the day, a lot of the things that you do is support, help, but you cannot point at a frame or a shot and say, that is what I did, because sometimes, depending on what you do exactly, it can be you literally just supported and you never touched the shot as the final result. Sometimes it can be also unclear definition, what you do exactly, so you can hop around, and depending on the studio, it can be different. And some people misunderstand TD and IT, depending also on the country and studio, and so you end up maybe doing a lot of IT work suddenly for some people. So in summary, a technical director solves problems. And a key tool to solve problems is Python, because Python allows us to make steps faster and make steps possible. So let's dive into that one, because I believe one of the key aspects of being a great technical director is Python. Python is a scripting language that in visual effects, animation, and games you can use everywhere. Maya, 3ds Max, Houdini. For example, we do courses in Maya, 3ds Max, Houdini, Nuke. We currently work on Blender, but you can even use it in Cinema 4D and in all the Foundry environment. And that is really, really cool, meaning you learn one scripting language and you can speak it everywhere. It's a little bit like English. If you learn English, you can speak it basically everywhere in the world. Most people speak English, at least. as a second language. And so that is really fantastic. Same thing with Python. If you become a technical director and learn Python, you basically are invincible when it comes to problem solving. So Python, what does it do to make things faster? Simple things: saving, loading, importing, exporting, combining step. You press the button, 5 things happen that you normally have to click, 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 click. Restructure steps, you can just easily change the order, like this one, no, this time it's this one, and so on and so forth. So basically we can create tools that simplify steps, that avoid human error, typing the wrong thing, naming the wrong name, creating the wrong group. So we can avoid errors, we can simplify steps. People have to focus on their work. A lighting artist can just focus on lighting, and they just press a button and it's published, and they don't have to think about it. So it makes it much faster, much safer, less problems, and so on. And then you have things like this, the loading tools or saving tools, and this then is either can be a pipeline, can just be an application, doesn't have to be a pipeline in the complex sense. So that's really, really cool, and allows us to do a lot of helpful work. We can write different tools from saving to loading. And then one of the cool things I love is about this one. So we have here, for example, at the bottom in red, that's the default light editor, and it has certain functionalities. But let's say your artist, in this case your lighting artist, they ask you, hey Alex, you're TD, you know Python, can you write something custom? We always do the same process again and again and again, and that's not a functionality that is in the light editor. You're like, no problem, let me create this simple tool here where you can add links, break links, link light exclusive, link object exclusive, and select like linking. Easily done, not super complicated, a few hours and it's done, and suddenly the artists are more efficient, faster, and it doesn't exist. It didn't exist before, now it does, and so it's thanks to you and Python that you can write it. The other part is you can go one step further. It can make steps possible that were not before. You can maybe create custom tools that maybe didn't exist in the software. For example, in the past, there were no render threads in Nuke, so we would have to write our own render threads, meaning we would start multiple versions of Nuke in the background and just render the whole process and basically create our own render threads. We can create things like for lighting, auto eye or rim light. So it's automatically like you see the dot depending on the camera position, and it always works, which is really cool and saves a lot of time to fix the dot in the eye for each shot. We can create custom nodes, shaders and lights, toon shader, simulation, and so on. And obviously procedural is very important, and actually machine learning is a very common trait in the environment of Python, for example. It helps us with animation, lighting, rendering, and so on and so forth. So very, very powerful skill to have, not only as a technical director, but even as an artist. Knowing something like Python actually can be very, very useful at the end of the day. And here's like, for example, a tool that I wrote for Nuke. It's a custom write node, and it has some overlays. You can create certain exports, AXR, JPEGs, TIFFs, certain setups. Here it was before render threads was a thing. In Nuke we had our own custom render threads, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we created something that didn't exist before. And here's like a small graph to understand how much actually you need to know of Python to actually work with that. So I would say, like, if you look here at the bottom, is like at the left side is the production. You do like everything that will end up in the final shot. On the right side here is how much time you spend actually in scripting and support. So, from left you are an artist, to the complete right side you are a software developer, and in the middle we have technical artist, and here technical director. And then from the bottom is artistic, and to the top is you work mostly technical. And so again, this is like the graph. So the further right and top we go, the more we are a software developer. So I would say even artists will benefit from having a basic Python beginner understanding like we have here. And then when it comes to technical artists, you should be more on an advanced level, and then on technical director and software developer, that is then the level that you need. So generally speaking, like having Python as a skill is very, very helpful, even on an artist level, because you can, start to help yourself, automate things, and so on and so forth. And then do something like this, you write a tool that works actually in every software under the sun in visual effects, animation, and games. We have here Nuke, Maya, Houdini, 3ds Max, and we have the same tool actually working in all of them at the same time. And the cool part is, and that's also what we're focusing, for example, on, you don't need to learn the whole of Python. You just need to learn what is relevant for being an artist, and it's only that. So we don't need to learn, 100% of Python. We only need to learn 30% of Python, right? Because that's the only thing that we really, really need for our job. So we don't need to cover the whole language. Like we would learn English, we don't need to learn business English if we're not in business. We don't need to learn culinary English if that's not important for us. So there is a lot of facets, and it can allow us to just, be more focused and so on. One of the questions I always get, since it's an important skill and people want to become technical artists, technical directors, like how long does it take to learn Python? So usually I would always say around 3 months to read and write Python code, write simple, helpful applications, and then you are kind of on these technical artist level where you can write simple things to help yourself and your team. For a more technical directing role, it could be like 6 to 12 months, since you have to learn the basics and then partially advanced. You can create pipeline applications, you can create code within a team. And then if your goal is to become a software developer or researcher or something like that, that will be like 2 or 3 years, because you really need all the backgrounds, including advanced applications, and work full-time as a programmer for a while to get to this like full level. So not super much. Like you can basically become like Python level technical director in 6 to 12 months with proper education. So it is really like, it's manageable at the end of the day. One of the things that I see when I compare like a lot of other courses also that do that is like, why do people fail in learning Python? And it's often like, I can't do it. I'm an artist. I can't do that. How can I ever learn? It's not my thing. Usually everyone can learn Python. You maybe never become a software developer. Maybe it's not in your interest, but everyone can learn the basics. Like you can learn English, like you can learn Spanish, French. You can learn Python, because it's a language. You just need to practice. You just need to get over this mental block, and then you can move on from that. Also, learning alone, not so much fun. If you don't have clear deadlines, if you watch just a bunch of YouTube videos, always difficult. If you don't have no clear structure, just watch this video, that video, it just feels like random. Learning without feedback, always hard. It's really difficult to just start learning without really having someone they're kind of finding the way in there. No way to ask questions. You struggle with something, or you don't understand the concept. Not being able to ask someone is always difficult. Yeah, and so that is my problem sometimes when I look at something like Udemy, Skillshare, Code Academy. They often don't have that, and that's why when we, for example, teach that, we have live Q&As, we have code feedback, code assignments, and I think that is very, very important. So I would recommend generally, independent of where you want to learn. So first thing, you should learn Python if you want to become anywhere in the technical direction. It really helps you on that path. And so, yeah, so that's really important. So the best way to learn Python is to script helpful tools while being guided in a group. So in general, it's like the best way. So if your goal is to dive into the technical direction, don't just watch some YouTube videos and hope for the best. Find a great course that you feel is helpful, that has good background reviews, a good teacher, and then really write something that is meaningful. Don't write some random tools. Make a tool that actually helps you in some way. It doesn't have to be big, but maybe it's something that really will. And I always recommend learning in a group is always better. And so, for example, I can show you, for example, and how we did that. So our masterclasses is 10 weeks, and let me show you what our students did. So here we can see in Maya, We had this arm rig here, we have snap tools, we have texture pipe. So it is possible to, even as a complete beginner, never touch scripting, to kind of learn this. So it's not, it's not something magical. You need years of experience. You don't need a master degree to write helpful tools like we can see here. Obviously, after 10 weeks, you need to practice longer. It's not just 10 weeks and you are, master of everything, but you can already start to write actually something that is useful. And I think that is very, very important to learn at the end of the day. Here are some nuke tools that we had and so on. So that's really, really, really important. And so that is one of the main keys that I would recommend you to do. So if any technical role, technical artist, technical director is interesting to you, this is one, I think, of the key elements that you should learn is Python, because Python is the bridge into technology. Python is the bridge into the logical thinking, into the technical thinking. So I think the best way to dive into this role is to learn Python, as it will give you a lot of not only the skills of scripting, but also the thinking of technology, basically. So it's a great gateway into that environment. So what is a technical director specifically? So there are different technical directors that we have. The job of a department technical director is to support the department with specialized applications, workflow, and technical aid that has a direct influence on the artist's work. Pipeline technical director, which is a bigger one, is mostly about data handling and how departments communicate with each other. The most common tools are saving, loading, importing, exporting, plugin settings, and so on. So if we think about a pipeline technical director, this is a mostly coding heavy job. So if you love coding, if you love the idea of helping every team, jumping between different teams, helping move information from modeling to pipeline and so on, and you always love to work with different teams at the same time, this is the role of a pipeline technical director, which needs advanced Python, some maybe other languages like Mel, C++ can be helpful to some degree. You need to know Shell and Linux and Git. You need to know much more DCCs, so it's not enough to know one DCC. You should be aware, how does it work in Maya, how does it work in Nuke. So if someone from the compositing has a problem with Nuke, you can help them. If someone from Blender has a problem, someone from Houdini has a problem, you can just jump in and help. Obviously, you're not expert in everything, but you are able to identify and easily jump into that. Shotgrid is important. Understanding the whole production in a pipeline role is very, very important. And again, documentation and communication skill. If you are more interested into a certain department, let's say you love being in a certain role, then it will be more department. So here, by the way, this is how the pipeline TD is. It's more between technical director and software developer. So if you are more interested in certain departments, like you love lighting, you love to be a lighting artist, and you just want to add basically the technical element, you want to become a technical artist in lighting or technical director in lighting, then it will be a little bit different because the requirements are different. So for example, a lighting technical director supports the artist in the lighting and rendering workflow with templates, rendering solutions, and simplification tools. So these are typical things lighting technical directors do. They do render layers and AOVs, they do render optimization and render settings, lighting templates, complete lighting setups. Let's say we have a whole city. This is something more for, Python scripters, maybe for people who can work with procedural stuff. And they build lighting tools, for example. So basically you get a specialized TD for a specialized environment. You can have a comp TD, so you will make tools for Nuke. You can be an FX TD, so you will make tools for Houdini. So that is the two main roles. You can be either a department TD, then you will be specialized for usually it's one software, one department, or you can be a pipeline TD, then you'll be for the whole production, and then you will work with different software, different departments, different leads, different artists, different environments, and so on. Okay, before we dive into case study, let's dive into the chat for a moment and check. There were a few questions there. So let me dive into that one. So, by the way, thank you everyone who is jumping in and helping us here and also asking questions. I appreciate everyone who's part of the live. So, Raphael, hey man, I'm a character TD, 17 plus years experience, and I'm having difficulties finding job now. What is going on in this industry? That's that is obviously a big challenge, independent of where you are. I always believe that it is better for technical people, but yeah, obviously we're not immune to the situations. I think it can shift by countries. That is a big thing that can happen. I noticed a little bit of shift that people start to go to Australia, for example, last few years. So yeah, it's really hard to answer that question. I think it's always important to be updated, as we talked about before in the TD role. At least look at machine learning and AI. I think it's important. We will dive into that topic as well today. But yeah, it's not easy to answer that question. So if you have a very specific question, happy to talk about it. So else it's a little bit hard to say something to that. Xenon, how do you know what parts of Python to learn? NumPys, pandas, machine learning. Sadly, as far as I see, the creative Python courses are really old. They use PySet2 or some old stuff that are obsolete in software. Yeah, so first thing, it depends a little bit on your background, but basically if we, for example, we do the loading here. So for example, we do actually all the DCCs. We're currently just working on Python for Blender. This is loading. And so at the end of the day, what to learn, and that is very, very important. It's important to find a course that is specialized for your environment. So generally there's, for example, on Udemy, a lot of Python courses. They give you stuff that you don't need, and then you end up in this like circle which is not relevant to your background. So for example, if we look here, like for example, we do Python for Maya, Python for 3ds Max, Python for Houdini, Python for Nuke, and we're currently working on Python for Blender. And we really dive into, okay, what do you need if you want to create certain tools in Blender? What do you need if you need to create a custom write node in Nuke? And that's the thing. And a lot of the stuff that people train in these courses, you actually don't really need. And so at the end of the day, what I believe is to look at the software, to look at the department, and only teach what is relevant. So our courses are new and fresh, and we constantly update them to make sure that they are relevant. We had the switch from PySet 2 to PySet 6. It is not a big switch, to be honest. I don't think it makes, especially on a beginner level, it definitely doesn't make a big difference. It can make some difference on an advanced level, but again, PySet 6, PySet 2, it is very detailed oriented stuff that in most cases doesn't really matter too much. It's actually more important to be able to understand the bridge. So how do you bridge the gap if you have PySet 2 tools and PySet 6 tools? How do you write the application so now one of them is suddenly crashing or something like that? So I think that is kind of the stuff that we do. So yeah, I would highly recommend to, if you're having problems to find good courses, check out ours. We always keep our courses fresh. So we had the Python 2 to Python 3 change. We did an update there. We had update PySet 6 to PySet 2 to PySet 6. We updated it as well. So that's very, very important, because at the end of the day, for us, is relevant courses is the way to go, basically. Okay, what else do we have before we move on? Is this free course or paid course? You can find free videos on our YouTube channel. We also have here on this YouTube channel, we have a bunch of, introduction courses for Maya. The Max one is not current. We have definitely the free introduction course for Maya here. We have for Nuke here. And we just did the Houdini last week. It's also part here, and we will do part 2 there. So this will give you just a basic introduction in this, so I can recommend that. But for the whole experience, I would recommend to join our masterclasses, because we give the opportunity to ask questions in live Q&As. We give the opportunity to do homework and assignments, and then we will give you actual feedback on your assignment. So that is where the paid part comes in, because besides making this masterclasses, obviously the personal mentoring and support, that's also why they're kind of paid. But yeah, you can find basic stuff. The benefit of doing a masterclass versus some YouTube videos or some YouTube free course is obviously they're more often better made. Second, you have live Q&A. We have a Discord server with the group. You have feedback on your assignments. So generally speaking, if you do something like this and it's well made, then you do it faster, you learn faster, you make less mistakes over time, and so on. So that's the main reason why I would recommend doing something like our masterclass as well. Hello guys. I'm a technical IT infra support. I was working at a Benext VFX studio. I will move on next level career in my journey. Kindly explain this course suitable for me. It depends how much background you have in Python. So if you are new to Python or certain visual effects Python, then this would be perfect for you. You can just dive into one of these, specifically pick the software that you need. If you're in Maya, pick Python for Maya. In Max, pick Python for Max. Houdini, Nuke, Blender. If you are already experienced with that, we currently have 2 courses, but we're working on more. So we have the Python Advanced, which will teach you something like Git, coding style, professional coding style. We go deeper into PySide and so on. So that will be one. If you, for example, want to be more current, we have the Python GitHub Copilot, which we look into how can we use AI to help us code assist. And we are currently working on Python applications to make better applications. We work on Python ShotGrid and Python pipeline to explain how to make your own pipeline. So that would be a cool, interesting thing to go, basically. Yeah, let me know if you have more questions to that. Last question before we continue, and then we obviously jump back to the questions that we have. Do you recommend any books, preferably, or courses on machine learning? I didn't watch any machine learning courses or didn't read books on that, so I'm not like an expert in that. One of the things I can recommend is we actually did an episode on machine learning in our 21 Artist show. So is it in here? It's not. So you just go on our YouTube channel and there is an episode here with Paul Kaniak. So he is crowd TD at Pixar, and we talked about machine learning. I would say this is like a soft introduction into machine learning. So it's not like a crazy machine learning background, but it could be an interesting, is like, where can we use machine learning? That would be cool. Yeah, else I'm not super into machine learning, so not much I can suggest for now. The thing that I did before, I worked with AI for coding. That is the Python Copilot here that we did a course. So I'm familiar how much ChatGPT, Gemini, and whatever can help you code and how to use it. That's more my familiarity of that. Okay, let's continue the presentation, but we will come back to the questions, so keep them going. And we will also address Comfy UI. That's one of the things that I have in here. Okay, let me show you first a case study, because I would love to, not just talk about the role of a technical director. I would like to show you the role of a technical director, what that can be. Obviously, that can be different for every studio, project, and so on. But let me show you one case study. So this project was called Animan, and I was pipeline shading, lighting, and mocap TD on this project. So this is kind of a snapshot from how this looks like. And I would like you to first show you the video. It's a short trailer, like 2 minutes, and then we'll break it down how we did that, so you can understand like what did we do. So this was university project, so nothing crazy, but it was made for the International Trick Film Festival. So yeah, let me show you the project. Let me know if you have sound, and then we can dive into that one. Okay, so yeah, I would say, I'll be honest, it's not the most impressive project I've ever worked on, but it is a really great case study. That's why we're bringing it in. So it has some flaws. It doesn't look perfect. You know, the characters sometimes, whatever. It's not perfect, but overall, I think it's was still a fantastic project for being a TD, and I think I like it to show how we done it. So this was 4 people, like 3 people, 3 producers. Like there was 2 directors and which also 3D artists. There was me as a technical director, and we had 2 visual effects. We have 1 visual effects producer and 2 normal producer helping us with the animals that we will show. So this is like a snapshot of it. So my job was, for example, lighting and shading. So you can see here, this is my lighting and shading, but the texture we did with photogrammetry, and the animation we did with motion capture. And I want to show you what that means and how a technical director can be in here. So in this case, I was kind of a artistic technical director. I did the shading of the character, I did the lighting, but it was also about rendering. It was finding light that, for example, works in a 180 degrees situation, because this was one set. We had a bunch of cameras, but at the end of the day, the camera doesn't really move much. So it was about optimization and finding ways to optimize this frame, for example. So this is where I came from. You know, we were wondering how we came here. I came here through that, and you can see here we did these kind of stuff. We scanned humans, and we were throwing cats, and this is how I came to throw a cat, because we needed a cat flying through the air and being recorded by a bunch of GoPros that are surrounding it. And this is where, you know, it's really can be really interesting to be on a technical side, being a technical artist, technical director, and so on. So, for example, our goal was to capture animals, animal movements that we can put on the character. So the first thing we needed to do is we needed to capture animals. And we figured out, okay, how do we do that? So you can see here at the left side, we have just the one that we had with the falling cat. We, you know, did a very kind of simple breakdown. Okay, high up, we let a cat fall because the cat has to flip. We need the animation, so we put that in here. We had on the right top, we have this dog running through this thing. And at the bottom, you can see where we have the character basically. And so we planned this out, and it was a very technical challenge, because it's about how do we optimize this? How do we do certain things? And so, for example, with the cat, originally we wanted to use a mocap setup, but it didn't work because cats are very small creatures. You cannot put the dots on the cat. So what we needed to do is we need something else. So what we decided to do is we use GoPros. So the whole room is full of GoPros. It was like 14, 16 GoPros, and we put it around the cat. We put just simple color markers on the cat, and then just throw it, you know, upside down. That was the owner of the cat who was kind of like throwing the cat, if you want to say so. And yeah, there was like a challenge, like, oh, mocap doesn't work. We did a test, didn't work. So let's try to figure out how we can do that using GoPros. The same thing for the character. We wanted to have a realistic human. So what would be the best way? Obviously, you can texture it, you know, you can paint it, but we wanted to want the whole human with textures and everything. And so what we decided to do is we created a system like this one for photogrammetry. Meaning, as a technical director, I had to learn what is photogrammetry, how does photogrammetry work, how do we optimize photogrammetry, how do we get the best result doing human photogrammetry. And so it was research, testing, trying. You know, it was not research in terms I didn't write a paper or something. It was just taking a camera, looking at an object, photographing it, and figuring out, okay, does it need more light? How does it work with dark objects? And so on, until we figured it out. And that was like the summary of all the understanding that we got. Like a lot of light, stabilized, you know, like arms, a lot of light from every side, stabilized cameras. The more cameras with angles, the better, and so on and so forth. So it was really interesting. And then the other part that I needed to learn is how to do certain kind of lighting and shading situation. So for example, we wanted a kind of foggy environment. So it was also about like, having a noise-free environment, which, you can, obviously this can be done by an artist, but it was also a challenge. How can we make this render easily and fast and with less noise and stuff like that? And so that was also the big challenge to do that. And then we had the steps here, how to add kind of like the fog, haze into that. And then that was basically the result of shading, lighting, kind of figuring things out, finding the rendering settings, and so on and so forth. And here is the result. So the idea was always that whatever I will be lighting and shading, it should work on a 180-degree change, because the character would be running through that, and we wanted to avoid to constantly change the shading and lighting for each shot. So it was important to create one shot that can be moved, where the camera can move into a different direction and it will still work. So in a way, it's an artistic challenge, but in a way, it's a technical challenge of avoiding fireflies, avoiding issues with the lighting and shading. And so that was kind of the mix between artist and technology that I needed to do at the end of the day. And here, same thing with the character again, testing it, could be, later I would say could be better polished, the character, but that was what it is. And then we had the animals, for example, here. And here we can show you how it looks like with the cat. So you can see it's falling down, bouncing, and then here all the sides are GoPros everywhere, and it's recording the cat. Cat is fine, by the way, doesn't hurt. Here we did like some animations we wanted for our character, like, this kind of clawing and grabbing and stuff like that. Here we had the dog running, which you saw that the human was running like a dog. This is the animation. This is me, by the way, here. And then doing some tricks and stuff because we wanted the human to do that as well. And so, running through that environment. And this was also GoPros, and you can see the dog is markered. You can see like there's a lot of marks on the dog here because the GoPros will be collecting that from different angles, and we will later track that in a 2D software. So it was really interesting, and that's something we did over time, testing and so on, before we figured that out as well. Okay. Okay, so that is basically it. Let me show you the making of, and I believe the making of is the best part of the whole film. So the film is okay, but I think the real film is actually the making of, and the making of will show you what we did as basically a 3-people team to make this a reality. And it was a lot of work and a lot of technology in there, even though maybe the results are not the best, but it was such an incredible experience, and it shows also what is possible as a technical director, what kind of stuff you can do. And most things that you will see in the making of could be a part of a technical artist, technical director's job. So enjoy the making of. Yes, that's Animan. Great project. I have a feeling I get a copyright claim probably because of the music. But yeah, and again, like you saw like a lot of the things, how we applied the motion capture, how we did the environment, how we did the scanning and so on. And again, if it was more time, we were more experienced. It was literally the first project in the university we did. We probably had better results, but the impact it had on me of learning what it means to be a technical director, the impact it had on me of understanding that everything is possible, honestly. Like, I've never experienced this was just 6 months, and I had 2 other projects at the same time, so 3 projects at the same time. It was still, we did like, capture buzzards and flying cats and running dogs and photogrammetry and put them everything together and shading and lighting and whatnot. So it was really incredible to see how this kind of works and to understand the role of a technical director better, because at the end of the day, your role is solve problems. If that means to make a good lighting and optimize the rendering at the same time, then you do that. So usually a good technical director is a decent lighter, decent artist as well, and they're good in problem solving, Python and so on. So I think that is really, really important here at the end of the day. Okay, let's dive back to our chat so we can look at what's coming up in the next. Okay, we had the book. I'm working on breaking into the industry as a TD, but I'm really struggling with my showreel. It feels challenging to demonstrate tools and scripts in visual, engaging way. Does anyone have links to some great TD showreels? I would like to see some creative examples of how people are showing off their tools and how they work. Yes, this is something I actually had discussed before. We did, first thing, we will do a job application review. Highly recommend you to join us. So here will be next month on the 18th of December. You feel free to submit your showreel, and then we can do a little bit of a breakdown. Basically, how I basically would recommend it to do something like showreel breakdown like this is to show. Oh yeah, I just noticed. So we will have here on my website, on the YouTube channel, you can find it here. Job application review. We have a bunch of live events already upcoming this year, from the Python for Blender Part 2, application review, and financial healthy. So yeah, check it out. Could be interesting. So feel free to submit your showreel as well there. Okay, so yeah, so what I would recommend in general is make sure that whatever you do in the showreel, it is connected to a best case, if it's connected to a project, that would be the best. So, something happens, there is an effect, there is some animation or something like that, and you can see your tool being used for that. That is always the best thing. If you can, or if you do it by yourself, you have to show, when you show a tool, make sure that you show the benefit of your tool. So if you show a lighting tool, don't just show an empty room, maybe there's a light and that's it. Best case, you take a scene. Worst case, you just download something, and then you show the tool how it helps the scene to be lit, how it helps to the animator to be animated. And that is always what people are looking for. They're looking for tools that actually has an impact on the production. It's not just some random tools that theoretically can help. If people can see how your tool potentially could create a whole city with a few button clicks, create or shade a whole character or texture a whole character with a few button clicks, that is what people really, really want to see. So yeah, we will definitely look into that one, but I can totally understand the kind of confusion sometimes how to get into that one. What do you think about ComfyUI? We will get into this later, as this will be part of the AI talk that we are having. Which software was used to track the dog with the GoPro footage? Oh my, that's a while ago. It's like 10 years ago, I think. I don't remember. It was a 2D software. It was not a 3D. Like it allowed you to put multiple signals in. I don't remember. I didn't do the tracking myself. That was one of the artists that did that. So I don't remember which software we ended up using. So not sure how to do that. Thanks for showing this, Alex. I still remember when I first saw the thumbnail, I thought the model was you, and brave you were to be mo-capped in your pants. Yes. So I'm a software developer with 8+ years of experience and 3 years in 3D animation, looking for my first job as a technical artist. How's the job market for people like me? Be honest. In general, I think it's good. I think technical artists, if you are coming from software development, maybe technical artists wouldn't be the best advice for you because you are from being a software developer. I think the jump is maybe too high. So let me just quickly go back to the presentation. Hey, hello. Yeah, so I think the easier role actually for you would be technical director, maybe even pipeline technical director for now. So let me just, here, this one I want to show. So if we look at that one, you are in this last part, software developer, this one. And so for you, either being a software developer in visual effects, animation, and games, one of the ways that you can do, or being a technical director is probably easier for now, meaning you will be, people will ask less of artistic stuff from you. They will ask more of technical stuff, more coding stuff. So even pipeline technical director would be probably even the best for you, just from the structural way. Obviously your interest can change, but from a, transitioning phase, I would recommend you to either become a software developer, pipeline TD, or if you can pull it off, a technical director, because that will be an easier transition because you can still use more, you will be doing more coding for the beginning and stuff, you will do more problem solving. And then over time, if you're still interested in becoming a technical artist, and so on, I think that would be easier because a technical artist generally, I would say, is like 50 to 70% artistic and 30 to 50% technical helping, and definitely not on the same level as a technical director or pipeline TD. So it could be, depending on your background and what you can show, could be a little bit difficult. So I would recommend starting more on this side first before you dive into technical artist. I think that would be easier in general. Overall, I think jobs like pipeline TD are searched for. The hardest part about being found is obviously that you are an experienced person. That can be challenging, so showing something that shows credibility, I think that can be sometimes a little bit difficult. Overall, I think the higher on this scale you are, the more jobs you can find in general, and more stable it is. But again, like at the moment, the industry it can be a little bit rough. But I also believe that these are partially situational and seasonal thing. And at the same time, I believe the hardest part is for you to, find first thing the right position for now. So if you come from software development, it would make sense to stay a little bit here more than just jump already to the artistic side too far, because then your qualification maybe are not there. And the second side is to show, even if you're a software developer, are you a software developer for visual effects, animation, and games? Can you show things that are important for these people, for the project, for environment? And that could be maybe sometimes a little bit the challenge that you will face at the end of the day. Okay, let's dive into that. We had a Comfy UI question. Let's dive into Comfy UI. Okay, so one of the things I always, it's very important with the AI elements and whatever, technical artists and technical director are not AI artists and are not AI driven professional. It is, I would say AI artists for now are not real professions. It is, if everyone can write a prompt, everyone can become an AI artist if that's the truth. So you can be an artist who uses AI. That is a job, meaning you are a modeler and you use AI to help you model. Cool. But being a pure AI artist sounds more like, everyone's grandma can be an AI artist because everyone's grandma can prompt, art. So, so there is no professional AI artist at the moment, but doesn't mean AI is not important. So let's dive into that one. I think even more interesting than AI in itself, first level, is machine learning. Machine learning is something where, especially we as a technical artist, technical director, can really benefit. We had the question previously about machine learning. I think that one was really important also to look into machine learning itself. I think that is always a good thing. From Raphael, the question was, so one of the ways that you can dive into machine learning, for example, if you are in compositing and in Nuke, is to look into Copycat. We actually did an episode, you can find it on my channel, Copycat with machine learning in Nuke with Luca Prestini from Foundry, and we looked into how can Copycat help you to do the process and, for example, simplify tracking, simplify painting out things and stuff like that. So that's one of the things or improving the sharpness of an image or coloring an image and so on. So that is a really, really cool thing. So I think machine learning at the moment is a more realistic professional tool like Copycat, or even you write it yourself with enough Python skills. So I think that is the first step of reality. I think the realistic approach to professionalism for us is machine learning. Either we use tools that exist or we write our own, but machine learning is about optimization, it's about speed. That's what it is about. Like, you make two trackings and the machine learning algorithm will track for the rest of the 100 frames. So that's really cool. That saves a lot of time. Where, for example, just AI prompts are not really enough for being VFX professional. No one can just prompt a professional result. Maybe it will be in the future, 10, 20, 50 years, who knows? But for now, it's not good enough. I know no one can show me neither for coding nor for results. And so we should be aware that it exists. We should be following the trends and understanding, but we should also be realistic about this kind of stuff. And here we have then something like Comfy UI. We had actually this episode Comfy UI in Nuke with Tim Repolya, who did break down how this works in Nuke, how you can integrate it into Nuke Comfy UI and work with it. And so that was also very interesting. And it allows you to do, generate images, which can be really interesting, especially if you integrate it. And you can manipulate images. Like here I had some input. I wrote some, it's a node network, which makes it more professional because instead of just prompting, we can start to create node networks, which is basically Nuke. And then we have more control. And with more control, we can make more advanced and more complex results. And so that is really, really cool. So that is much closer to be a professional environment. And that will more likely allow us to be closer to what we want and be used in a production than ChatGPT prompting or something like that. So this has a little bit more potential, but also, again, you always have to be realistic. How are the results? So at the moment, I feel like from what I saw, this could be nicely used for some filters, for some background elements or whatever. You create a castle in the background with Comfy UI. Great. If that works, if that quality and so on works, cool. I don't think it will survive in the front as the main characters, the main cars, the main elements, and so on. So that is the summary of Comfy UI. But I would also recommend you to watch the episode. I think it was really cool and can kind of like show you the usability. So he was talking as a compositor, where did he use Comfy UI? And I think that was really, really cool to use it for storyboarding, to use it for background stuff, and so on. The other part that I want to address, because that's obviously also important for technical artists and technical director, is the no coding kind of hype. So we had the world's most influential people, the CEO of NVIDIA. So he said basically coding will be obsolete. So I'm not a big fan of these comments. I don't believe that is really true. And the question came up over time is like, why should I learn Python if AI is taking over? Like, if there's ChatGPT, it's just coding for me and so on and so forth. And I always came with the same answer. It's like AI prompt coding needs supervision. And one of the things I did was I actually did a course. And so besides that, actually all a lot of the, like basically all machine learning is built around Python, so you can access it with Python elements. It's built in C++, but you can access it in Python. So ComfyUI you can access via Python. Stable Diffusion, which ComfyUI uses, you can access via Python. And actually most machine learning you can access with Python. So if you learn Python, you can not only manipulate the common AI and machine learning stuff, you can generate your own. Like, you can use Stable Diffusion to create your own AI machine learning tool, basically. But the other part is you can use AI and stuff to, instead of replacing you can use it to be better at coding. So one of the things we did here, we did the Python Copilot, it's GitHub Copilot, and we made a course out of this, and we showed how to code using AI and how to use it as a support. And it is limited. It is not the bullet, the silver bullet for, solving all your problems and so on. You need to understand how to work with it, where are the limits, where are the strengths, where are the weaknesses. And when you find that, it's like having an assistant. It's not someone who replaces you, it's more like someone who supports you. And I think seeing AI for image generation and for coding as an assistant, as someone to help you write emails, help you write, make code, help you make images, help you with that, but not just simplify everything and remove every problem, because it's not there. That is the best approach and the most healthiest approach. And who do you need to do all these, to understand all this? You need technical artists, technical director, because these are the people who write this code and have to deal with them, with the AI, because the AI will make mistakes. The AI will break the code. The AI will make bad images, and someone needs to understand and fix and help them, or just, so that is the important part here. And that's how I see AI basically, supporting. It supports you with research. It supports you with code reviews. It supports you with a lot of things, but it will, at least for the foreseeable future, not just magically remove everything. It will magically remove compositing or coding or whatever. And at the end of the day, even if it starts to remove it, you will still need people who understand what is good code, what is good pipeline, what is good compositing, what is a good model, because someone has to judge it and someone has to make this work, basically. So if you're interested in that part, you're welcome to join. We have a Python Copilot. It's a course, so you can just do it on your own time. We look at Copilot and how to use it basically for coding. So instead of pushing away AI or saying like, AI will replace it, no, we are realistic. We look at AI as a tool to help us. So there is a potential for AI, but honestly, it's not the big potential as you think. I would say after doing this course, after making this course, I would say using AI for coding will give you 20 to 25% productivity. That's it. And if you are bad in coding, AI will not make you better. If you're good in coding, AI will improve more and more and will allow you to become faster in coding, better quality, and so on. So there is a cap on how much AI can do for you, basically. Okay, if you're interested in any of that, what I've just talked about, you're welcome to visit my website. We also have a lot of these stuff that I mentioned just now in our blog. We do the TD Meetup every month. This is one of the months. We did, as I said, the ComfyUI previously. We also did the Copycat and many more. You can find it at alexanderrichtertd.com/blog. If you're interested in learning Python or you are shifting from a different career and want to go into visual effects, animation, and games, and want to become a technical artist, technical director, or an artist who wants to know how to code, you're welcome. We do Python for Maya, Python for Nuke, Python for 3ds Max, Python for Houdini, and we're currently working on Python for Blender, and we have also Python Advanced and Python Copilot. And we also do have a newsletter. So if you're interested in TD topics, you want to be up to date what we do, if we have a new event, if we do a live stream, welcome to join our newsletter as well. Before we dive into the Q&A, let's do a quick 30 seconds coffee break, and then feel free to write some comments in the chat, and we will talk about that in our Q&A. Welcome to our short mid-episode coffee break. If you love the content and would like to have a successful career in the film or games industry yourself, check out my website. There you can find helpful articles, masterclasses, and coaching opportunities that helped dozens of my students to bring their profession to the next level, and share the podcast with cool people you know. Let's continue with the episode. Okay. Yes, so that was the whole background of what it means to be a technical director. Obviously, technical artist is kind of bleeding into that sometimes. So yeah, if you are interested in becoming technical director, technical artist, that is a lot of these things that I believe you need to understand about the role, you understand about the requirements, and as we did, you kind of understand what interesting projects you sometimes can know. Obviously, not every project is, throwing cats around and dogs through mazes and whatever. But the main core idea of being a technical director is you support the production on anything that is technical related. If they need you to fix Maya because it's crashing, you do that. If you need you to look at the scene because it's too slow, you do that. If the rendering is too long or buggy or whatever, you do that. If they ask you if you can help them to simplify workflow, write tools, create lighting for a whole city because it takes like 1,000 lights. It's like, hey, can you write a tool that can distribute lights for the city? Can you help with the effects? Can you make this? Can you make that? That's what a technical director basically is. It's a supporting role that can be artistic, that can be technical, that can be programming. It really depends on which department, which role, and so on. And it has a lot of flexibility. So you can end up being sometimes on that side, sometimes in this team, sometimes on helping that person. And it has a lot of responsibility and allows you also to be an integral part of the production, because you often speak with supervisors, with leads, and try to help them wherever you can. And I would say in general, like one technical director supports 5 to 8 artists. So, you can be one technical director and then there are like 8 artists that you help with their support, build tools for them, and so on. So that's a very common thing, how you can do that. And I think the best gateway into the role of a technical director is Python. So if you're an artist, for example, and you're interested in becoming a technical director, the best way to become one is learn Python. And because there's multiple reasons why I recommend Python particularly. That's why, for example, we teach Python as this big lighthouse of technical directors. So first thing, Python is a key scripting language for every technical director in visual effects, animation, and games. So if you learn Python, you learn the most important problem-solving tool. Because with Python, if someone has a problem, you can write a tool. That's it. With Python, you learn logical thinking, because Python is a logical language. So meaning the more you write code and write scripts and write applications using Python, the more you start to break things down. Okay, he wants this lighting tool. So the lighting tool is this. So Python code-wise, this will be this. So the more the script, the more you train your brain of breaking things apart, breaking them logically, and so on. So by learning Python, not only do you learn a new scripting language, you learn how to think logically, which is a key element of that. The third part is you are a problem solver, because Python solves problems. Every Python script that we write solves some kind of problem. So you train your problem solving skills, because that is the thing. So we write the thing, and then later after you learn about analyzing a problem and breaking down a problem and solving a problem, suddenly next day someone says, "Hey, Alex, Houdini is crashing. Can you help that?" Sure, it's the same thing. Why is Houdini crashing? Is it the scene? Is it the software? Is it your computer? Is it something you do? What do you do? And you do the same logical thinking that you do if you write a tool. So same problem solving. So by learning Python, you get all the key elements that you need as a technical director. Obviously, the key at the technical director at the end is still being a good problem solver, being a good communicator. So Python will not cover everything, but it is a really great start. So again, if you want to transition into a technical artist, technical directing role, I think Python is the best probably way to do it, because problem solving as a course basically impossible, because what do you want to teach someone in there? So, but Python is a problem-solving course basically. If you write code, you are a problem solver. You break down a problem and then you write code for that. And then later you like Maya is crashing, you break down the Maya problem and you find workarounds for that. So at the end of the day, so yeah, that's why Python is one of the best things. Not only is it a key element of being a technical, it also teaches you all the things that you need to slowly transition from an artistic to a technical role, basically. We had all good stuff. Strongly suggested all. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Luciano, it was great to have you. Thank you so much for making these videos. Yeah, we're happy to do that. And again, I'm a big believer into technical roles. I think, you know, if you love being an artist, stay an artist, but it will never hurt you to have a little bit of a problem solving thing. I think every artist will benefit from being a problem solver. Like, you know, a typical problem we see on a technical directing side is, especially on animators, a lot of animators only know how to animate. They really don't care about the software. And when the software doesn't do what they want, when it starts to crash, when it becomes unstable, a lot of animators just throw up their hands. It's like, oh, I don't know. And that is a shame, because it will stop you from working. It will take away time. It, you know, takes away confidence, because suddenly you have to wait for other people to solve your problems. And I think if you are able to, you know, being, you know, I know how to logically break down the problem and find a solution, it's just more powerful. And obviously you will become a more important person in the group, because if you are in a 10 people group and you are the person people come to if they have a crash, if something is not working, if they want a small tool to help them simplify a process, you become basically a lead in a way. And so, yeah, so that's one of the many reasons why I believe it's such an important and powerful way to do it. Is Maya still be used for lighting in big companies or less popular now? I don't know, I should go for Houdini or Maya course. So it really depends on the department. Lighting is still, it really depends. So first thing, Katana sometimes, but Katana is very rare. It's very rare. It was MPC, it is Pixar, but yeah. So lighting, it depends a little bit on the environment of it. So Maya is really strong in rigging and animation for sure. Can be sometimes modeling, shading, texture. So Maya is generally strong on certain things. Houdini catched up with Solaris in lighting, but I think Maya is still very, very strong in that department. It really depends on the industry that you're in, because certain industries use different software. It can be, you know, in certain, and for like animation could be sometimes even 3ds Max actually. So that depends a little bit. Second, it depends a little bit on the structure of the company, because some companies want to have everything in Houdini, so they decide that everything is Houdini, and some companies only do effects in Houdini and do most of the other things in Maya. So it really, really depends. So yeah, I would, if you're not sure which one, I would just look at the job applications of the jobs that you're interested in the future, you know, wherever, DNEG, wherever, and then look what is the software, the primary software that they show, and then I would go for that. At the end of the day, one of the things that our core principles that we want to show you is also the following. So if you learn any of these software, you will be easily able to transition. So for example, if you learn Python for Maya, it will take you only 3 additional weeks to learn Python for Houdini. And we have this really cool concept that allows you to do that. So first thing, all of these Python courses have the same structure. So the first 5 weeks, you will do Python, independent of which software. So you will learn the same Python for Maya as you will learn the same Python for Max. So we learn just for the first 5 weeks, you will learn Python, Python, Python. It doesn't really matter for which software, meaning you can use this first 5 weeks, whatever you go. Then for the 3 weeks afterwards, we will teach you how to use the first 5 weeks that you learned in Maya, in Max, in Houdini, in Nuke, in Blender. And then for 3 weeks, you learn how to apply that, what you learned before. And then for the final 2 weeks, you will make an application in the software. Meaning, after 10 weeks, you are able to do things in Maya, for example. And if you also decide to learn how to do it in Blender, you just upgrade. For example, we can allow you to give you an upgrade, and then you learn in 3 additional weeks also how to do it in Houdini. And you can learn in 3 additional weeks also how to do it in Nuke. And that is the really cool part, basically. So you only have to do 10 weeks for one software, and then learning a new software will take you a few extra weeks, and you are able to jump into every software, because Python is like English. If you speak English, you can speak in different accents, and you can just change the accent. It doesn't really matter. So it's just a different flavor in a different software. So you just need to learn, how do I use Python in Maya, and how do I use Python in Houdini? But Python is the same in every software, just a different, function that you have to call. So that's the real cool part. At the end of the day, you should pick the one that is obviously the most important for you. So if you know you will use more Maya, then pick Python for Maya. If you will use more Python for Houdini, just pick Python for Houdini. But at the end of the day, if you learn Python for Maya and then just add 3 extra weeks to learn Python for Houdini, after 13 weeks, you learn both. So it doesn't really makes a big difference. But it is important in general to know what is the core software for you. So that is definitely I would recommend for you. If you're looking for a job or transition or something like that, it's important that when you decide what role you want to do, is also important to be clear which is the most common software for the job that you're looking for, because people obviously hire people more likely that have exactly the right skills and software backgrounds. So that is really, really important. But in terms of our courses, it's not a big deal if you pick one and then the other one afterwards. It's very straightforward at the end of the day. Yep, exactly that. I was preparing this whole animation for this kind of thing. I just remember that I still have a few of them. I didn't use them too much yet. So we'll see if I get an opportunity. Yeah. Do you guys have any other question for Python or the role of a technical director or anything I just presented? Because that is the idea. That's one of the main things I want to do in the live stream. I want to give you the opportunity to be interactive, to ask questions. And just that at the end of the day, we are doing multiple of these live streams. So we already have, after this one, next week, we will do Python for Blender part 2. Then we will have the next TD Meetup. By the way, we do this every month. Next TD Meetup will be application review. So feel free to submit your review. So if you click on it, there will be in the description, there will be a submit form. You can add yours if you are interested to get feedback on your job application, including showreel. And then one day after Christmas, the 25th of December, we will do Financially Healthy for the first time. We will look into how to optimize your finances, as also I can see in the chat, as some people struggle to find a job, to keep a job, it obviously comes with financial struggle. So we did a TD meetup about that before, financially smart freelancer, but this will be like a kind of a follow-up. And I just want to, show ways how you can understand better your money, how you can deal with money, how you can deal with hard times now and hopefully in the future. And so, yeah, I think it's very, very important. And again, that's what we do. It is, we look into technical artist, technical director, but at the end of the day, a lot of the things that we do are also, cross with everyone. Like everyone needs financial understanding, everyone needs job application understanding, and so on. So we also do things like that because we believe this is important. Being a technical director doesn't mean you just know Python and that's it. It means you have to find a job. You have to be a good team player. You have to know how to communicate well. You have to be a problem solver. There's a bunch of things you need to do. And a lot of them cross with every other job title, basically. So we have also some overlap with different environment. Is TD same as technical artist? It is not. And let me show you what's the difference. I actually thought about doing a technical artist follow-up maybe, but at the end of the day, there's a few key differences. So in our Python or scripting and support scale, we can see here. You can see that a technical artist here, after artist, is less technical, less support heavy. So a technical director is more support and less involved into the production. A technical artist is closer to be an artist. So what is the difference? The simple difference that I always describe, an artist is 100% production. So everything the artist does, more or less, ends up on the screen. You know, if you are a modeler, you model for the screen. If you are a shader, you're shading for the screen. Where a technical director, some of it can be end up in the screen. You make some lights, you make some shadings. Some of it will not. Like if you make a tool, none of these parts that you made end up on the screen. You help the artist to make it, but you didn't make anything on the final image. And so usually I would say the artist is 100% production. A technical artist is like 50 to 70% production, so mostly production, but some support. A technical director is like 30 to 50% production, meaning mostly support, but a potential production. It really depends which department, which kind of technical director. If you're a lighting technical director, you can be just writing tools, or you actually do a lot of lighting and help with the rendering settings and so on. So it really depends. So at the end of the day, the biggest difference between technical artist and technical director is how much are you involved in the production and how much are you supporting. And technical artist is more production and less support. Technical director, more support, less production. So at the end of the day, a technical artist is basically an artist who also occasionally does support, who occasionally writes a tool, who occasionally helps with some technical problems, where a technical director is a support person who occasionally does artistic elements. So it's kind of a flipped situation at the end of the day. But there are, you know, gray zones how much you can be. Like a pipeline technical director is basically more or less 100% coder. Like a pipeline technical director, most of your time is problem solving, but a lot of that is coding. Where a lighting technical director, it could be, you know, 30% coding, 50% helping with render settings and so on, and I don't know, 20-30% you do actual lighting and so on. So it really depends on which role, and also different studios will treat you differently and give you different tasks to do. So that is also sometimes the cool part, because it allows you to, you know, be more artistic maybe on one project, be more technical on another project. So that's really cool. But yeah, basically that's the main difference between technical artist and technical director. It's like, how much are you involved in the production versus how much are you involved in supporting the production. And usually the technical artist is an artist who also supports. Thank you. So TD is more like pipeline software engineering. Again, a TD doesn't, yeah, maybe if you want to say it like this, but again, it can be, because you write tools that actually will be in the pipeline. Like if you write a lighting tool, it will be in the pipeline. But it doesn't have to be that you are like a full-blown coder 24/7. Like you can be a lighting TD, for example, or shading TD, and you code 20% of the time only, and most of the time you know, help create new custom procedural shaders, for example, or help fix certain shader issues or something. Like it's all about challenges, all about technical problems, and it can involve more coding, less coding. But if you are a pipeline TD, it will mean a lot of coding usually. Basically a software developer. The difference to software developer, oftentimes these are R&D people. They basically are often actually more in C++ territory, and they create software like kind of separate from the production. A technical director is involved in the production. Most software developer and R&D are disconnected from a production. They make tools, like someone says, hey, we need a glass shader, new one, completely new, or we need to update something completely extreme, and then they will go away, work on something for 6 to 12 months, and then bring something, and then it will be integrated into production. But they will normally not do the day-to-day kind of interaction with the artist. Where a technical director, they make it often faster tools, shorter time period for tools. You know, you work on a tool for 3 days, you work on a tool for 4 weeks, and then you will interact with the artist because they will literally use it every day. something like that. So that is often also the big difference between the different roles at the end of the day. Yeah. Any other questions or comments that you have? Hopefully I could address some of the questions regarding job situation. That's obviously a little bit tricky. It really depends where you're from, what kind of role you have, what's your background. It can be harder, easier. Obviously, the industry has some kind of weird situation with the actor strike. We had COVID. We have the AI uncertainties. We have certain companies just closing, MPC and so on, Technicolor. And so there is a certain, obviously, like a kind of a, obviously a downscale for sure. But at the same time, people still consume media. People still want to play video games. People still want to watch Netflix and so on. And visual effects is basically every series and every movie has visual effects nowadays. So this has to be done. And as we learned, AI is not there for sure. So, and even if it would be partially there, you need people with technical understanding and artistic understanding to guide them, which, so at the end of the day, there has to be jobs. I think it's just also partially one of the main reasons that we have a little bit of slum now is just the uncertainty. People and companies are not sure how much they should invest into people, how much they should invest into AI, how much do they or reorganize and so on, and this creates like a holding period a little bit, I think, and it's not great, but that's what it is. And at the end of the day, I think the most important people in the future is obviously you need artists, but also very importantly, you need people who can deal with technology, who can deal with performance improvements, who can deal with AI and machine learning and so on. So you cannot just expect that artists will be just able to just pump out stuff and just use all these tools, because these tools will not work 100%. These tools need to be integrated well, these tools, whatever. So there will be a lot of opportunities for technical artists and technical director in the future. I think even more, because I think every artist has to have a slight level of technical knowledge. And that's what it was in the past. If you talk to people from, old times, DreamWorks, we had PDI, Carl Rosendale we had on a 21 Artist show, and they basically said we had to invent everything. There was nothing there. And so every artist who was in PDI was to a certain degree a technical person, PhD sometimes. And I think that has got lost in the last few years. More and more people became button pusher. They just know where's the button that I have to click in Maya to get a certain render settings, where's the preset for that, where's the preset for this. But that's the problem, because Maya is a heavy technical tool, and not knowing why Maya is not performing, or why Maya is so slow, or why it's crashing, or whatever, and why the certain things are working and certain things are not working, what does ray tracing means and why it's working and faster on this situations but not as fast on that situation. That is very important. Like if you're a lighter and you don't understand concept of rendering, it is a downside. Like there's a bunch of lighters, artistic lighters out there who light beautiful pictures, but their environments are ass. Like you can literally not render this stuff. It's just horrible. It takes 5 hours to render a shot because they use 500 lights in the scene. And then someone who has an understanding of the environment, understands how rendering works, how render optimization works, they make the same scene with 20 lights and it renders in 1 hour, 30 minutes. And it looks basically the same. So, it's not always only about big Python scripts and technology. Sometimes it's just the more you understand the process, the more you can, even as an artist, optimize your workflow. Same thing for shaders, same thing for modeling. If you just model to make beautiful stuff, you will have a model with too many vertices. You will have a shader with too many render iterations. And then that's not great, because that's maybe cool for a single project, but it's never great for a production. You don't want immense vertices. And even though in the past we had video games trying to reduce the vertice count and stuff, and with Unreal it goes away a little bit, and in video game artists start to become more free. But at the same time we see the regression of the assets are too big suddenly, the environments are too complex, and no one's like optimizing as much anymore, and that creates other problems basically. So learning to be a more technical person, independent of how artistic you want to be, I think can only be beneficial. Like even a full-blown artist with a little bit of sense for technology, Python, understanding of render and whatever, just benefits himself and the production immensely. So I think that's really, really important. That's why I'm a big fan of these kind of environments and being a technical director or working with technical directors as well. Okay, any final questions from you guys? That doesn't look like it. That means we can close the book, and we basically catched up with what we should have done on the first episode. So we finally talked about technical directing and can know exactly what actually the TD Meetup is about. It's about being a technical director, but also technical artists and technical enthusiasts. So yeah, you're welcome to join us. We do this every month. Next month, as we do the job application review, will be our 2-year anniversary, basically. So we did it for 2 years every month so far. So really cool. And there's a comment for sure. My pipeline teams love people who are able to grasp the technical side a bit more. Yes. This is also very important. I think this comment is like, I love working with technical artists, or artists who are not afraid of technical environments. So even if you're not becoming a technical director yourself, it actually is very beneficial standing out in the team if you are not afraid, if you can help the technical team. So really, really, really helpful. So yeah, really cool. Yeah, thank you very much for joining. So this is our TD Meetup. This is what we do here. We try to cover different topics. Feel free to let us know if you have certain topics you would like to know. We will in the future do this live. So feel free to join us live. It's always great to have you. You have the opportunity to talk with me. Don't only ask questions. Feel free to add comments and contribute to that, because as we had in the Python for Blender, it was fantastic. I was trying to explain how I would learn Python in Blender on a single sitting, and people were helping me to understand certain backgrounds in Blender, so I was not familiar with that. So it creates this dynamic where I can teach you something, you can teach me something, and then everyone has learned something new over the course of the stream. And we like to do that in the future. I enjoy this. Love the communication with you guys, so it's really cool. Thank you everyone for joining our TD Meetup. Join us back on the 18th, I think. Let me just dive in back. What's the date saying? Yeah, 18th of December for our next TD Meetup, or next week if you want to follow up to the Python for Blender. Join us there. And yeah, financially healthy. Also, I think a lot of people could benefit from, a little bit improving your financial background a little bit, and how to figure out your finances, how to reduce costs, especially. That's my expertise. And maybe even improve your income if that's possible. So I think that there's a bunch of things we can learn. So yeah, join us in the future. Happy to have you guys. Thank you for being part of that. And I'll see you in our next TD Meetup. I welcome you to join us live and also watch the previous episodes, and I'll see you on our next TD Meetup.